Let's start by mentioning the first and most basic relational structure called a dyad. A dyad is a two-person relationship. This could be between two coworkers, a married couple, a teacher and student, and so on. In the absence of conflict, the relationship remains stable and the anxiety between these two people remains underneath the surface. Conflict arises when there is a difference of opinion or perspective and one or both parties involved in the relationship are unsuccessful in getting the other person to agree with their view. Their different views causes anxiety to bubble up to the surface, especially when they are holding firm to their stance. In order to alleviate the discomfort of the anxiety, one party will vent, gossip, badmouth, or complain to an uninvolved third person to release the tension. Now that three people are involved in a relationship, it becomes a triad or a triangle. Even though the anxiety diminishes, bringing in a third party, the conflict will remain despite some temporary relief. Eventually, a trigger will cause the buried problem to come alive again, which will awaken the anxiety and the conflict will continue. According to Murray Bowen, the pioneer of family systems theory, a triangle is the basic building block of any emotional system. Continuing on, if both parties involved in the original dyad look outside the relationship to triangle a third, we can see how the emotional intensity in the system can build when you have multiple interlocking triangles. Just imagine the emotional intensity in large corporations, congregations, and other large groups of people. These emotional systems started with a single triangle and build from there into very complex interlocking triangles. A leader has the ability to either make the relationship between two conflicting parties worse or better, depending on how they manage themselves in the triangle. There are 6 keys to diffusing anxiety in relationship triangles. The first key to effective leadership at this stage is to remain in the outside position of the triangle to avoid taking on the anxiety, which will help the leader stay in a neutral position. The goal is to avoid reacting to the nervousness within the system, and the outside position is preferred to avoid taking on the anxiety. It is here where one can manage self well and avoid being fused into the anxiety. It is important to be a calming presence in the middle of high levels of anxiety. To be a calming presence, it is important to control our emotional responsiveness. If we are in a neutral, outside position, staying calm is more achievable. The second key to help us diffuse anxiety in triangles is to function as a calm observer. When we avoid reacting to the anxiety of others, we are able to better remain objective and think more clearly. The outside position gives us the ability to be a resource. As an observer, we are able to take a step back and see how the anxiety is circulating in the triangle. The outside position allows us to get a bird's eye view of the emotional system. As an observer, we can ask the party who is intending on absorbing us into the conflict the right questions, which leads to the third key in effective leadership, which is asking the right questions. When we ask pointed questions, this allows others to use their best thinking and they can see their own part in the conflict. Asking pointed questions also keeps us from the undesired role of trying to fix people or the problem and allows the parties involved to take responsibility for resolving their own conflict. One example of many questions we can ask is simply, "What are you going to do about it?" Or, "What is the next step for you?" This places them in the driver's seat in resolving the issue, which leads to the fourth key. The fourth key is to direct the anxious person to work out their differences with the other party instead of with you. Since all communications are now going through the triangled third party, this is stopping the flow with the other party, which is preventing any progress. The triangled third party can serve as a conduit between the two parties to make sure that progress is being made without taking sides. Also, as leaders facilitate the flow of communication between the two parties, they should stay positive and encourage both parties. An example statement would be, "I know both of you can work this out." The fifth key is to be upfront with your guiding principles. Taking the outside position also does not mean that we do not have an opinion. We are free to express how we feel about a situation, but it is based on our well thought out values and principles that we have developed over time. These guiding principles come from our best thinking instead of a reaction fueled by the emotional field. For example, we can make sure we express from the beginning that one of our guiding principles is that we will not take sides and we will remain neutral. Guiding principles sets boundaries from the beginning of what the leader's role will be in the triangle. The sixth and last key is to stay connected with both parties. Staying connected will prevent those involved from going elsewhere to find someone else to triangle who seems to care. If one of the parties feels like they're not being listened to or being ignored, surely they will seek to diffuse their own anxiety with another outsider who will pay attention to them. This will create interlocking triangles. Staying connected will help those involved feel that they are valued despite their issue. Leaders can keep the lines of communication open by being friendly, listening without taking sides, and even have conversations which do not necessarily have to be about the issue at hand. Even humor can take the edge off anxious triangles. An example of staying connected can be when we see them in the hall, we can say, "Hey, I saw your dad at the bank today. I haven't seen him in a while. How is he?" In summary, effective leaders are able to navigate conflict well. They avoid taking on the anxiety in a triangle by remaining in the outside position. In this position, effective leaders are able to be a resource in helping others resolve the conflict when they function as a calm observer. They ask good and pointed questions, causing those involved to use their best thinking. This way, they can see their role in the conflict and begin taking steps to resolve their own problem. Effective leaders direct each party to communicate directly with the other while facilitating the exchange to make sure progress is being made. Also, they stay connected with both parties by having frequent but brief contact with both parties and express their guiding principles, which establishes who they will and will not be in the triangle. I hope you have found this resource beneficial in navigating conflict in relationships. God bless.